Hallå, nu fungerar det. Okay, let's start. Warmly welcome to this interactive session to discuss the work environment in our Nordic countries. I'm very happy to see so many joining. It's a long day and it will be a long day, but we have a very interesting topic, so I'm very excited. My name is Tua Takasu. I work for the Finnish-Swedish Chamber of Commerce and as a project manager. At Finsware, we do many initiatives to contribute to a more integrated Nordic region. We enhance cooperation, we assist companies to internationalize, and we also assist young talents to get a more Nordic identity. These are some initiatives, but I do believe that it's all about small steps that brings change. I personally believe that the best way to enhance business, in this case between Finland and Sweden, is to having people gaining working experience in the neighboring country, and in that way also you will get a network and so forth. And today we will have two inspirational speakers having done just that. So I'm very excited to hear their story. We will also talk about work-related immigration and how we can attract and keep a good workforce in Finland. I'm personally very concerned about the direction we are heading to, but I think that we can all do our share as individuals, as companies and politicians to create a more welcoming and open society. It is to the benefit of us all. So let's start, and I will give the word to our wonderful moderator of today, and who you shall know also been a huge driving force behind this session today. So please, Anna Bertills from Bertills & Jung.
Thank you, Tua. A warm welcome to our event today, Shaping Tomorrow in the Nordic countries. My name is Anna, as you heard, and I will be your moderator. We will have a panel, speakers, and also collaborators. Do we have Finlands Svenska Skolungdomsförbund here today? Yes. Do we have Åbo Akademi, studentkår, there? Do we have Wasa yliopisto? There, good. Wasa International Talents, there is them. Welcome. And Novium, welcome. And VAMK, do we have VAMK here today? No, but the rest of the collaborators are here. During this afternoon, we'll discuss how we can collectively shape the future of the Nordic countries, focusing on education, labor market, and joint opportunities. And now we will present our speakers, and first runner-up, Anna Hellerstedt, former CEO of Hufvudstadsbladet AB, and with an impressive career path in her CV. A Swedish engineer who quickly became successful on the Nordic arena. And now is the incoming CEO of Samfundet Folkhälsans. A warm round of applause.
Now, can you hear me? Good. Well, thank you, Anna, for inviting me, and thanks for a wonderful introduction. It's really nice to be back in Wasa. It's been a couple of years, actually. My name is Anna Hellerstedt. I was born and raised in Stockholm, but I've lived in Helsinki since 2006. I have a Master of Science in Industrial Engineering and Management. I am retired from one aspect. I used to be a competitive gymnast. I do not do any somersaults anymore, but I'm quite good at standing on my hands if someone wants to challenge me after this session. I started my career at McKinsey & Company in Stockholm 2001, and now, as Anna said, I'm approaching a new role as the new CEO of Folkhälsan starting 1st of October. But guess what? I had no plan. No plan of where my career would take me, no plan of what is the next role or next company, and I don't still have any plan. But on the train ride up from Helsinki to Wasa, really nice ride by the way, I kind of decided to dissect a little bit. Are there any kind of common traits or patterns that I can see and maybe share with you today? But before I do that and go into the actually 3 traits that I found, I wanted to know you a little bit more. So, if you don't mind, can I ask you some questions? Are there any students here today? Yeah, a couple, nice. Welcome to you. Is there anyone besides me who was born and raised outside Finland? Yay, fantastic. Anyone who has had or want to have a couple of years abroad, outside Finland or somewhere? Oh, that's quite a few of you. Wonderful, welcome. And last but not the least, is there anyone who hasn't had the hand risen up yet? Welcome to you. All right, so 3 traits, as I've had no plan for my career, but I managed to find 3 traits that's actually been, I think, common denominator for my whole career. The first one is to stay curious, really curious. When I started as the CEO of Hufvudstadsbladet 6 years ago, now Hufvudstadsbladet is a small media house in southern Finland, but it's the biggest Swedish-speaking media house in Finland. At the point when I started, everything was pointing in the wrong direction. Subscription numbers were going down, reader engagement was falling, and most importantly, colleagues, being it the editorial team or other colleagues in the customer service or IT development, there's a lack of vision and a common direction and inspiration, basically. And in order to solve that, they then hired an engineer who was not from Finland, not the Swedish-speaking Finn, and had absolutely no clue about the media industry. Great solution. And I remember one of the most well-known journalists from Hufvudstadsbladet, Maria Gestrin Hagmer, she asked me the first day, "So, Anna," and I was at the point when I was recruited, I worked at Mustia Mirri, so that's the Nordic, the largest pet retailer in the Nordics, so it didn't really build any cred on the editorial team. But Maria asked me, so Anna, what are you going to do to turn Hufvudstadsbladet around? Are you going to open vet clinics in the editorial team? Because I hear they're very profitable. It was an extremely kind of relevant question. I've come back to that question many, many times. But coming back to being curious, what I did was actually I sat down with each and everyone at Hufvudstadsbladet in the company, 110 people about. I had half an hour with everyone. I asked them 3 questions. Because the way I see, a company is it consists of people and they're all experts, basically. So I asked the same questions. What is our biggest asset and strength? What is our biggest problem? And what do you see as the solution to that problem? And third question, if this was your company and your money, what would you invest in and put focus on in order to be in a better place in 5 years from now? And then I also called all former ex-McKinseys that happened to be in Schibsted and Bonnier News and A-media and Berlingske Media, every media person I could find to just investigate and understand the market, basically. The rest is history in a way, but we went from what I would say we were very busy dying at Hufvudstadsbladet, and now I'm kind of happy to see that it's actually busy growing. But stay curious, and you don't have to know everything yourself, but trust your colleagues. That's the trait number 1. Trait number 2. Well, we all have our weaknesses, but you just have to work around it and find solutions. almost 20 years in Finland. My professional Finnish is really not there. You can throw me out in Kuopio and I will manage, you know, and everyone will hear that there is a Swede here, she speaks Finnish, but most of it is wrong, but the words are okay-ish. But being the CEO of Hufvudstadsbladet also put me in some interesting positions, like being in the board of Uutismedia Liitto Hallitus. That is an extreme Finnish experience, a board member of the Finnish News Media Association, where the matters are very legal. You talk about, you know, legal development in customer, what you can do with customers and subscribers and what Google is doing, and there are lawsuits, and it's all in Finnish. So my way of working around is make sure I have the documents a week before, Google translate it all, then I'm quite familiar with the topics, discuss it internally, and then go to the Hallitus and listen in, and be part of the discussion as well, of course, in Swedish, in English, and a little bit of poor Finnish. But it has always worked. It has never been a problem. So I think I'm coming back to, I kind of realized that my professional Finnish, it's not going to happen. It's too difficult. But you cannot fool me in Finnish. I will pick it up, and the rest I will work around. So I think that has been my way of kind of handling that matter. Because, of course, you don't want to live in a country and you don't understand what people are saying. But you just have to tackle it in a clever way. Last but not the least, make sure you're having fun at work. Because maybe I have a little bit of an engineer's approach to life, but if we think that we're working like 40 years of our life, and we work about 45 weeks per year, that takes us to about 10,000 days of work in life. That's a lot. So I was thinking, well, if I'm like approaching 120 years and I'm about to sum up my life, that is, by then I'm 45,000 days old, 10,000 are working days. Of course, I need to have fun during as many days as I can, basically. And having fun, and I would say also be a little bit of a rebel sometimes. To give you a really small example, but I was the country manager of Business Sweden. At the point, it was a big organization with 60 countries around the world. Main focus was to basically promote Swedish export and make sure Swedish companies got new businesses. And my responsibility was Finland. And we had 10 consultants, and we were responsible of the revenues and the sales. It was basically project sales. Then there was this CEO in Stockholm who said, like, we're going to centralize everything and we're going to do all the sales activities in Sweden. And then you try to think, selling like a partner analysis to China and find new customers in Thailand, expand to the US, and then they're also going to sell projects for Finland. It's not really going to happen. So my wonderful Finnish colleagues who just stood there when we heard the news, I was like, det här kommer inte att fungera. This is not going to work. So we just decided we're just going to keep on selling until someone proves to us that there are projects just coming in and landing in our heads. So that year and the coming years, while this transformation was going on, I think the Finnish office was one of the most profitable, and we actually grew and recruited, and no one really asked because, of course, we were delivering results. So I think in hindsight, I think of that as very much like, have fun, make sure you work with the right people, and then be a rebel if it really doesn't make any sense. So I think that was a quick summary. Stay curious, find solutions to challenges, and be a little bit of a rebel sometimes. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. And we'll get back to you. We'll have a discussion with Malin and Anna in a couple of minutes. But second, we have Malin Påhls-Hansson, currently project manager at Doings. Studied in Stockholm, born in Finland, in Ostrobotnia, in Vöra. active in the student union there in Sweden, and continued her career in Sweden too. A warm round of applause.
Thank you very much. And thanks to Finsk-Svenska Handelskammaren and also to Kvarkenrådet for arranging this important conference. Also this initiative to invite the young organizations as well, student organizations. I have the background, so I know it's so important to become invited to conferences talking about the future, because you are the future. So thank you for that. And an honor to come here. I will also share some messages that I have been bringing into my career. And one of them is to always say yes. And if you got a question to be here today, and I say, of course, yes, and then I start to think about, what should I say? But I'm here, and I will share. And I will also share some pictures as well. Yeah, no problem. Okay. So, my background. My name is Malin Påhls-Hansson, so I grew up in Vörå, a very good background and very good place to grow up in, very calm and safe. But I felt that I wanted to experience also something else, so I went to Wasa, to the gymnasium here, and I felt that that was the opening up stage in my life, to understand that there are so many opportunities. Like, what would you like to do to find your why? And that is actually something that I would also like to share to do today. Like, you can do whatever you like, you can study whatever and do something else, but you have to land in your why. Why are you doing these different steps? And I think we are lacking these times of reflections quite often. We don't take these times to really think about, like, what is my why? And I will also, of course, share my why. And here, let's see, I can start with this, as long as you are thinking about your whys. This is something that I have been thinking quite a lot about, like this Latin sentence, sapere aude. Is this new for you, or have anyone heard it before? Huh? Okay, so it's a Latin phrase for dare to know, or have courage to use your own reason. So this is a sentence that has been leading me through the last years, when I've been taking crazy decisions, maybe. I have said yes. So, yes, let's see, I can maybe have that. Yeah? So, my why. I would say, like, my why is actually to connect people, organizations and people. And if you have that vision, you can be in any branch. And I would say that that's my key. I am a speech and language pathologist, but right now I'm a consultant. I came from Google, and people don't get this. And I say, I know, for me it's very clear. The red thread is to connect people, to work with communication. And that's my why. Let's see. So right now I'm working in a consultant agency, and the name is Doings, and we work with getting people to do things. A lot of organizations and businesses have a lot of visions and goals, but it can be hard to get it done. So that's the niche in our branch. So we are working with sustainable change, and you can see this little sweet bus. We are just 17 people with different competences. And I would say that's also a key, to gather people with different competences, to challenge each other, and to put yourself in this kind of environment, to challenge yourself. Yeah. So, the little timeline. Vörå, Wasa övningsskolas gymnasium. And I would say, like, what I get from this is to really have, like, the foot in the ground, fötterna i jorden. And what I must say, of course, this is something I take like an advantage to go to Sweden, to really have the strength to be quite straight, because that's something they like in Sweden. But I would also say, when I did this transformation from Finland to Sweden, I also met resistance. And that's something I would like to also talk a little bit about. To change countries, and to change areas can also be to face resistance. And as a human being, that can be quite hard. We don't want to be in resistance kind of situation. But to meet resistance is also a sign that you are improving something. In this meeting with these people, some processes will start. And that's a key, I would say, to trying to let yourself in this situation when you meet resistance and solve them, because you will learn, and the other person as well. But I did this transformation. I went to Sweden, and then I will just show this very quickly, because this is not a real timeline, as you can see. This is more like a crossroad. And I would say this is my career, quite of a crossroad. And sorry for all information. What I want to say with this is just, as Anna said, to stay curious. I remember when my little sister asked me, like, Malin, how many education do you have? And I said, 1. No, you have several. And then I started to imagine, like, okay, and the student organizational background is actually the best. So I went to Stockholm University. I have a bachelor from there in psychology, also to Karolinska Institute to become the speech and language pathologist. But I would say the student organizational background, to do that as a president for 2 years, was a very practical way to understand the Swedish society, because I didn't have a network actually when I went there. But then I understood how it worked, and it made me very curious to understand. And I would say this timeline, I would never have been doing this if I wasn't a Finn, because always it has been a pro, like a plus, that I've been a Finn, coming with a Finnish background, Finnish understanding. And people think I'm smart when I'm from Finland. I don't know, but okay. They think I'm well educated when I'm from Finland. Okay, hopefully. So you have a lot of, positive just by coming from Finland. And that's something maybe you don't see when you live in Finland, but when you go abroad. So thanks for that, even if it's maybe not true in my case. Anyway, what I would say, what this has been leading from Vörå now to Stockholm, and to start to think about also how can I use my network, because of course this is very much about building bridges and network building, and I would say that's the key for me, because networks and people, everything is about people, and my educational background is about understanding people. The digital transformation is a lot about people, so I'm trying to find my own branch and my own career by going from a hospital to Google to this consultant agency, because I'm curious and I see these crossroads. Then you just have to motivate them, of course, so we can go further. Yes, and this is also about inspiring, and I would love to just share one quite nice exercise, because I also want you to start your own processes. This is the big high five. Everything is in your hand. You can do a lot of change, even if which stage in career you are. So this is a high five I would like you to do when you come home. You just draw your hand, and then you think about, okay, and the framing of this could be also to think about how should you use this knowledge from this conference to build new bridges. Because what we have been understanding from this conference is that it's so important to build these bridges between the Nordic countries, but not just the Nordic countries, also the European and the transatlantic relations as well. So, okay, what must I do? The term for what should I do for myself, or something, a goal for yourself, like this is something I should do. Then we have the index finger. What should I delegate to get more time to really do the right things in my work, private life, or whatever? And then we come to the long finger, like, what should I stop doing? I think all of us have something that we should stop doing. And then we have the ring finger, something I need for like a sustainable life, to also keep in balance when it comes to the health. And the last, with a little help from a friend. We need help, to ask for help, and to let ourselves in a situation that we learn from each other. So this is the big high five for a very good autumn for all of us. So try to do this. Just take a while for reflection. And I think this is also something that I've been doing quite a lot. I've been reflecting trying to get myself in situations to reflect what should I do as the next step, and to have people around, of course, that helps you. So we can go through. This is just different fingers. Yes. So thank you very much. This picture is about bridges, and we've been talking quite a lot about bridges today. And this is actually my why, to build these bridges between people, organizations, and I think we are many sitting here which have the same kind of vision, but we also know that it's about doing, to start these connections, to find these new friends, to start these processes. Åsnebrygga is something we are talking quite a lot about in Österbotten, and I heard that this is about like good bridges. So you can see some donkeys here as well, different kind of bridges, Replotbron as well. So take this as an inspirational part. I have not been talking a lot about policy, we do it afterwards, but of course it's a lot of policy in this to make these bridges more accessible. But we as a human being can also help each other. So I would encourage you to not be a gatekeeper, but a gate opener to each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Malin. Very inspiring. And when it comes to education and the labor market, we always, I'm 44 years old, we talk about what the next generation wants, what they should want, what we think they might want. But this time we'll let them speak by themselves. That's a good idea. And I think I forgot to check if Essu is here today. Simon? No? Simon? He was here. Okay. Okay, he had a meeting. Yeah, that's a good excuse. But first up, we will have FSS, Niko Partanen.
And do we take Teo as also?
Yes, of course, Teo Torkulla. Yes, and we'll give your reflection what you just heard, but also when it comes to education and labor market in the Nordic countries.
Thank you, and we have resolved that Teo will begin and then I will continue, if it's fine for you.
Yes, of course. So, hello everyone. My name is Teo Torkulla. I come here from Vasa's neighbor, Korsholm, and I'm currently studying at the Vasa Övningsskola's gymnasium, which was mentioned earlier. I'm very grateful for that. It's a great school. When it comes to the young people and students in the Nordic countries, especially in Finland, we have this development where fewer and fewer children are being born. So I was thinking, how do we keep an interest in our young people so that they want to stay here in the Nordics, build their lives and careers? And the first thing I thought was, if you want to build a career, build a life, you need contact and communication. What do you need for that? Language. And here in Finland especially, where Swedish is a minority language, everyone still studies it, and Swedish is actually the biggest language in the Nordic countries. And the interesting thing about the Nordic language is that they're very similar. So, while some voices in Finland want to maybe cut off Swedish parts of the education, I think we should value this, because this creates opportunities to build connections, to learn new languages, would make it easier to build a life in the Nordics. Sorry if my English is not that good. Maybe 15 minutes ago got the news that I should make it in English and not Swedish, but I'm doing my best. And also, not just the Swedish education here in Finland, but also to strengthen and encourage education in all the Nordic languages in our countries. And the second thing I was thinking about, language education, that's not the only thing that schools can do. What I also was thinking about that, for example, here in Vasa Övningsskola, we have this thing called tandem classes, where we have been working together with a Finnish-speaking school in Finland, doing tasks online. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be interesting to see a larger scale of these cooperations between schools in all the Nordic countries? And through this also encourage exchange projects between schools so that our students could visit different countries, meet people, communicate, and get to know each other better. Because we have a very good relation in the Nordics, and I think it's important that we encourage our future generations to maintain this relation. Thank you for listening. I will now hand over the microphone to our president, Nico.
Thank you, and I have been presented so much, so I hope you got my name. But I think we haven't. So in English, the official name of our organization is the Swedish-speaking School Student Union. So as here we mentioned School Student Union, it's us, and we're representing the Swedish-speaking School Student Union. And I would love to begin here. The bridges, as also Theo said, the bridges are really important. And I wanted to begin with communication. Because why would I, as a student, want to go to Norway if I don't have any connection, anything to begin with? I'm leaving from my gymnasium, I'm leaving from a vocational education, and everyone is like, you're staying here in Finland. You don't have an option. Oh, you can go and study to USA, but it's really expensive, so don't go there. Our option, yeah, you can go to Sweden, because that's the only information we're getting. How can we broaden this perspective? How can we go further than just Sweden? How can we inform the students? We also want to become rebels. And students are usually connected with rebels, but I would also want to say that it's important that you are letting us to become rebels. Sometimes it feels like a lot of adults are pushing that we have to be really experts. We can't make mistakes, and it's a lot in the news too. I see sometimes it's like, oh, and the students have done this and this, and sometimes I would just love to go and comment like, so you were perfect when you were a student. Like, sometimes you feel like, oh, everything is on us, and I know that a lot of us are thinking about the youth sometimes, but sometimes we are forgotten, and here we are seeing it also in the job markets. Because in the job market, it feels like your options are, well, you can go and work in Sweden or Norway if you have a connection there. But you don't usually get the information you need, or at least you don't get it in the schools. And it is something that isn't like issue that we have to be concerned about, because we still are youths. We don't have every information. We are not a god. Nobody is a god, but we still are so new to the market. So it would be really important to also encourage us to go and explore the world and not be like, oh, but you can just work here. It's almost the same. It's not the same. I know it's not the same. And I want to say there have been a lot of discussions. Yeah, the Nordic countries, we have a good of stuff. We have to remember we have a lot of great stuff. But I wanted to remember because we have, for instance, Nordjob, which has become more popular among the youths, and I'm really happy. It's like an education program where, not education, it's a program where there are people helping students to go and work abroad in the Nordic countries, which have worked really great. But the opportunities there are going to work in a restaurant, and that's it. And I think it's like really, I think it's sad to hear that your options are straight going to a restaurant. What if you have been a car mechanic in the vocational school? You basically have almost every information you need to go and build a car in Denmark, but you are not being offered that. It feels like you have to be a certain age to get that job. And I think that's something that we are seeing in the student organization and that I wanted to bring up. But also want to say that really good points here, and that we also want to see that the bridges, the communication, and starting to get closer to the youth sometimes, just not thinking, oh, they're doing something their own. Being more connected is really important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nico and Theo. Thank you, and have a seat. And next up, Vasa yliopisto, the student organization. Is it you? Yes? Do you want to come here? And you can use whichever language you want to, Swedish, Finnish, or English, that's okay too, but okay?
English. Yes. What is the...
If you want to give your reflection when it comes to labor market education and the Nordic countries today, and how you look at it.
Yeah, okay. Hello everyone, my name is Sabir. So I am an international student, so I'm originally from Bangladesh, so I'm studying there, the master's program in University of Wasa. So I have very less knowledge about actually the Nordic market, so we only know about the Finnish market, but also a little bit. So I think this is really important, like when you are studying in Finland, so this is a European country, so you should have the open labor market. Like the whole European Union should be the place for you after you graduated. The place should be open for everyone. So there is for me, I would like to say that there are not many resources available for us to know about the labor market in the Nordic region. This should be available in we have a career council service in the university, which is really great. They are really helpful, but I think there should be more enthusiasm or more motivation that when you are graduated, you don't look for job only in Finland. You can look for job in Germany. You can look in Italy, Sweden, like anywhere in the Europe or anywhere in the world. Also, you can look job for the USA. So this kind of information should be also available in the Career Council service. And this should they should encourage people that how would you want to see the labor market? What is your expectations, or how would you like to build up your career in this region? So I think at the last year, the point always comes with that this is a two-side work. It's not a one-side work. So both parties should understand what is their requirements, what they want to do. Like if the Finland wants the international talents to be here in Finland, so also international talents needs to understand that what their career in the future in Finland. That's all from my side. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Åbo Akademis studentkår.
Thank you so much. My name is Amanda Byyskata, and I represent the Student Union of Åbo Academy University. And something we've discussed a lot today is that there isn't always just one straight career path. Usually goes something like this, a little bit like that around. So, meaning you don't have to choose one door and stick to it. You can take little passages through and check out what is out there. And that's something we also try to encourage young students to do, to try things. You might fail, but that's okay, because you've learned something. You can try new things, and you might not know, you may be able to combine things also, because the knowledge you have from one thing might translate very well to another thing. We never know. So first one we had was don't close the door on opportunities. Let's see, the second one we had for Nordic cooperation and for overall cooperation internationally was that degrees need to be the same. You need to be able to work in Sweden, Finland, Norway, Iceland, whatever, with the degree that you have. As it is currently, there is somewhat a harmonization, yes, but it needs to really be the same. You should be able to come from different backgrounds and work wherever, if we really want to be open and connected. And we already talked a lot about languages, but the language barrier is a fact, and therefore investing in language opportunities, exchanges, everything is really, really important. Because I myself had to learn Finnish, I had to force myself to try to understand it. It was really painful at times, but it's going somewhat well. Occasionally I will say weird things, but hey, that's okay, they maybe understood me. But yeah, And finally, something we've also discussed a lot about is investing in youth. Investing meaning both money, time, resources. We don't have a lot, unfortunately, as students. Our income is very somewhat budgeted, but really just investing, making sure that you invite young people to events like this, making sure that you see them, you hear them, and most importantly, listen to them. And that's about what I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Novium. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you. So my name is Kevin, and I'm representing the student union at Norway University of Applied Sciences, Novium. So I wanted to speak a little bit about the education we have at Novia, for example. We of course want more international students to come to Wasa, for example, to Novia, to educate themselves and get a higher education. But of course this can be hard, considering what Finland has to offer. For example, we all maybe agree today that Finland doesn't seem so lucrative at all times. Sweden or Norway could seem much better. But of course the student unions are doing their best to get the international students into the society, have a good student life, because if you have a good student life, then you want to stay here and you want to work here. But with that said, I also want to mention that, as Malin said, be curious. If you're an international student and you know that something is wrong, do something about it yourself also. Like, for example, ask people, what can I do? Start an organization for yourself, or like a group, and do an impact to this problem. Of course, we as student unions, all we want to hear, what are the problems? We want feedback so we can apply it, but it's hard because the international students are the key, and they know what is wrong and what needs to be done. So be curious and actually tackle these problems. For the work market, I would say, as mentioned earlier, Nordjob is doing a really good way of showing the Nordic countries and how it would be to work outside of Finland, if we are talking from that perspective. And I think many students would agree that it would be fun to have a career or start their career in, for example, Norway, Sweden or such. But that's the same thing. If you have an idea, maybe you want with your student group, your class, there's always fundings to maybe be found. So, for example, could we do a study trip to Norway? Be curious and actually ask this for yourself. What do I want to see? What could I do there? So you get a view, because many people have the same view, but they just don't want to apply it or are afraid to apply it. So I think that. And I also want to mention, we always think of students as youth, but of course if you are older, of course education happens through your whole career. So don't be afraid to apply to a new bachelor, master's degree, even if you're a little bit older. It shouldn't be a hindrance. So that were some things that I came to mind right now. But thank you.
Thank you very much. And we have Wasa International Talents here too. Welcome. You had a seminar 2 days ago, one-way tickets. Yeah.
I'm in the middle. Hi everyone, my name is Anna Bertills and I represent Wasa International Talents. I was myself a Wasa International Talent, and now I'm coordinating the program a bit from a different perspective. I think it's the path of international students. They have already decided to move to Finland. It's a step before deciding maybe to move to some other Nordic countries. But when one moves to another country and decides, now I'm going to Finland, one is looking for opportunities, one is looking for jobs, for creativity, to try new things and experience new things. And that makes that you are very much open to whatever happens. So if we manage for the Nordics to be more connected, either it is through language, either it's through collaboration within universities, companies, in one way or another, that can lead also for our international students to adopt these Nordic perspectives and maybe start their career here in Wasa and end up in Sweden or in Denmark or somewhere else. And yeah, as Anna said, we had a small seminar this week on Tuesday, and we had a small presentation trying to explain what are these challenges that our international students are facing. From that, I would like to highlight that it's always the language, one of the main challenges that international students face. And we are saying now, once again, that language, it's also a barrier among Nordic countries. So maybe we would all need to place a focus on this and start trying to remove or bring down this barrier that language poses to us all. And well, those are my words. That's it, thanks.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other student here who I have forgotten, or anyone else wants to comment? No, okay. Then we'll continue with the panel discussion and give some reflections to what the students' organization said too. So, be a rebel. Have you been a rebel, Malin? Anna talked about rebels when it came to career and...
Yes. Okay. Yes, of course. The things that come to my mind is when I was the president of the student organizations in Sweden, and I was pregnant when I got elected. And after a while, people saw that, of course, and some males in this board were asking me like, okay, Malin, so now you have to quit. Do you think I did? No, of course not. So this little Sigrid, she's 6 years old, and she has been following quite a lot this organization. And I'm happy that I did, because I know that many other student organizations have also had small babies after that it's okay to combine, it's possible. And in this organization we were also talking about to be equal and to make the same kind of opportunities for women and men and so on. But even if that, I could meet this resistance as well. And that's something I also want to message about, like to also live your policy in the organizations. And I felt that this was very important for me. But I got quite a lot of questions about it. Yes, but I felt like a little bit of a rebel, yes.
Mm-hmm. It's a good way of being a rebel. In that way, I've been a rebel too. Anna, Malin talked about high five. You saw that, the high five hand. Do you recognize the hand? Have you been there too?
Well, maybe not in such a structured way. But of course, I mean, now I quit my job at Hufvudstadsbladet 1st of May, so I've had actually the opportunity to zoom out and think a lot, and I think that's very healthy sometimes. So I've been going through the process of what to delegate and what to do, but also in terms of high five and having fun at work, I think it's like everyone can work hard, but it's really important to stop and do the high fives with your colleague and celebrate even small victories, but just cherish what you're doing, speaking about high five. But I think that's something that we put in almost into system at Hufvudstadsbladet, and it creates a good atmosphere, and people want to come to work and you want to do things, and it's just more fun with more high fives.
When you listen to Anna, to the student organizations, their reflections when it comes to the Nordic countries and labor market and education, and what came to mind. Therefore, second reflection, network, language. Did you have a network when you came to Finland?
Not really, but then I think I took Malin's policy of just say yes to anyone who invites you to anything, basically. And don't be afraid to ask. People who get the question of opening a door and inviting you to something, very rarely people say no, I don't want to do that. So I think the problem is probably more in your own end, that you don't dare to ask, can I ask? Is it rude? Or whatever ideas you might have. But I think that's dare to ask for help or door openings, basically.
And Malin, what kind of reflection do you have when you listen to the students' questions and?
Thank you. You were talking quite a lot about the language. And that's something I hear a lot as well. I've been working with the educational and labor market policy quite a lot in my background. And what I then started to think about was also I didn't say it, but the reason why I went to Sweden is of course also because of language. To be said. I mean, of course I'm brought up in Finland, but in this beautiful little place, Vörå, and it's quite a lot of, it's almost just Swedish. Even if I was studying in the upper secondary school in Wasa, I felt that, okay, I want to work as a speech and language pathologist, but it will always be a big minus in Finland because I'm not fully to have the two languages. So therefore also I was actually applying for the same education in Sweden because I thought that, okay, maybe I can do a more fruitful career to have the Finnish understanding in Sweden than the opposite. So that was the first step actually. But I would also like to just stress what some of you said, that please can we just put down this barrier and think about we have so many tools today to translate, to do it simultaneously, and to all of us understand English, for example, more or less, and to trying to see the vision and the willingness to do changes and to do things behind the language. It's so easy to just put the language card on the table. So yes, of course, even if it's a barrier, I think. But I think it's a positive development when it comes to language. It's so much easier now to find solutions. So I think it's about being creative also by yourself and to motivate. Maybe you have to motivate a little bit more extra if you don't have the language. You have to sell yourself, your knowledge, your vision a little bit more. And that's just a plus, because then you will find your why.
If you look at shaping tomorrow in the Nordic countries from another perspective, you can always see some of the competition between countries too when it comes to competence. And right now in Finland we talk a lot about getting people to stay in Finland. We need people and so on. Do you think this is something that affects also in a negative way or a positive way, or because this is a lot about competition between the regions, but also between countries?
Well, I think in essence, competition is good, and the fact that you talk about it, because that makes you think, what are the solutions to this? So I don't think that the problem is not competition, but I think the challenge is to find real practical, how do we encourage young talents to come to Finland? What is the magnetism of this country? To find concrete ways. But as an example, for example, Bonnier News bought the majority shares of Hufvudstadsbladet a year ago. Feels like 10 years ago, but it was only a year ago. One of the first things that we put into action was actually being able to circulate and try to, if you were a journalist at Dagens Nyheter, we opened up so you could actually apply and come and work at the editorial team at Hufvudstadsbladet, and vice versa the other way. And then we were thinking I wonder if any Swede would want to come to Finland. This pessimistic thought was getting there. But hey, there were quite a few journalists who applied and really wanted to come here. So I think in that sense, the wind has turned a little bit. When I left Sweden 2006, all I could read about, and I was really annoyed by Swedish media, always writing about Finland. It was either drinking or sauna. But I think the last few years, starting with like Corona, then the NATO, and some of the Finnish school systems, that has turned it a little bit. And I noticed it very practically also, you know, comparing Bonnier with Hufvudstadsbladet. It was not always the case that Bonnier told us what to do. It was also, this is what we do at Hufvudstadsbladet, that was actually contributing to the development at Bonnier. So I think it's a much more like healthy balance now, and that makes me really happy to notice, because I think in the long run that will also, you know, contribute to Finland attracting more talents.
So competition is good?
Yes.
Yes. Do you think so too, Malin? Competition is good?
Yes, of course, because I think it takes the best out of people if it's good competition. And I would also just stress what Anna just said. Living in Sweden for 15 years, and the last years I have seen a very positive switch. Even if I always have felt it's positive to come from Finland, and people used to say like, oh, you should be proud to come from Finland. And of course I'm proud. But I can see that before you saw that Finland was like a little brother. But right now, many Swedes are looking up for Finland. Companies, politicians, they're having Finland like a role model in many ways. So I think it's a good development in that way, and the bridges will be built, or they are needed to be built in a more like qualitative way in the future, I guess. So competition, yes.
Do we have any questions from the audience or comments so far? There is one.
Hi. Okay. I'll come up. My name is Maria Vanhatalo-Täissen, maybe more known as Mia Vanhatalo, as nobody can spell Vanhatalo or Täissen in Sweden, so it just became Mia Vanhatalo. I'm an eternal transformer. I'm one of those who was born in Sweden, moved back here, then got my education in Sweden. I've lived in several countries and moved quite a lot of times. And I was listening to the youth here, and it's quite interesting because my move from Kristinestad was actually to FSS in Helsinki, 1990. And what I like to say to the youth amongst us, we don't know the skills that we need in the future. We have no idea. But what I can tell with my experience, I'm now working with AI and edtech, but I've been in many other business fields also, but the thing that's common and what you will always need is language skills, an open mindset, and then also this curiosity that we've been talking about, and also maybe knowing that there will be no one right educational track, no one right professional track. Make it your own. So I'm really grateful here to these. But one question that I would like to maybe pose, if that's okay, is that could you open up your view on the need of these micro certificates? Because now in Finland we are very focused still on that you need to have the right education, you need to go to the right school, and then you need to do the right thing, and then you do the right job, and then you become better. Could you open up the prospect of micro certificates and how they would help the youth to understand that you can get to positions where you don't even know that you're going to? So, micro certificates.
Thank you. Anna.
Well, I was a summer intern in London many years ago at the bank, investment bank JP Morgan. We were 180 summer interns. This was the end of 1990s. Everyone was happy and business was good. The fascinating thing, and I've come back to that many times afterwards, that of course I was an engineering student. Next to me was a guy from Greek. He had a PhD in Swedish. And the guy next to him was studying geography. So no one was really studying anything that had anything to do with finance. But we were kind of meeting up in the evenings trying to summarize, like, what is JP Morgan? Why are we here? We never really kind of understood the requirement kind of credentials. But in the end, it was just, we were all there for potential. And I think Nordic countries in that sense, I don't know about the micro licenses or what you call it, but I think Nordic has a lot to learn from that. We are very boxy. And I've been an odd bird in that system, but I think there's a lot to gain to dare to recruit someone who has potential, doesn't know it all, but comes a little bit from the outside, because usually there is a lot of expertise on the inside. But I think then that comes to, to the boardroom, to people who recruit, to recruitment companies. You need to dare to open up, to dare to take in someone who is not an engineer to a position in an engineering company. Because, and in that sense, I think Sweden and Finland are very similar, very boxy.
But I must say, I think this is actually one of the reasons also why I chose in Sweden, because I think it's a little bit less boxy than Finland, actually. I would also say, like, it's about also learn to know your skills. I mean, you can have like an exam or whatever, you can have a title, but it's about your knowledge. If you are very good to understand which knowledge do you have that you have gotten from school, but also just by who you are, which kind of competence do you have, and how do you want to use them? I think that's a very good tool, because then you can motivate, and you can do whatever, actually. And I think we have to, the society needs people to go between branches, because we need people to meet with different competences, and to be the brave one, as I said, to meet the resistance. For example, to not do the correct way. I mean, for example, I moved to Sweden directly after upper secondary school, and I had 1 year off. I also went to a folk high school, and I get some question like, Malin, what's wrong? Why don't you go to university directly? I said, all Swedes do like this. They experience other things as well, because they know. The labor market is also about who you are, which competences, which skills you have earned, and how you use them, also the connections and network. And I think that's quite often much easier to do outside of your educational system, because, yeah, it's all about, it's a lot also about other things than just the knowledge. It's about the social competences and all that kind of understanding of different cultures. So I would say, like, to be brave enough to dare to do untraditional choice. You will never regret, I guess.
And when it comes to dare to open up, what are your thoughts on the need for skills from abroad, also from outside the Nordic countries? What do you see there? How well does the integration in the Nordic market work right now? Are we holding on to our own agenda, or are we promoting each other? Are we lifting in competence from abroad in the right way? Could we support in any other way than we do right now?
Well, I think there is a lot to be done there, and I hear often in Finland we always dream about, if we could create a new Nokia, or maybe even 10 Nokias, or there's this huge dream. But I think the Finnish society would actually do very good in bringing in new competence, a new way of thinking, because very few companies can actually grow and prosper just inside Finland. Finland is a small country. We're extremely dependent. 50% or so of the GDP is dependent on being able to sell outside Finland. So that tells it all, in itself, just by looking at the numbers. So having people with different understandings of other markets and other ways of doing business, I think that would be very helpful and would actually create some really interesting companies with the potential of expanding abroad.
Malin.
Yeah, I think it's about like growing in a sustainable way in business and organizations, and to also be brave enough to think in untraditional ways. Like you can of course recruit these talents, but maybe they want to stay in their countries, but maybe they can work abroad. So you can use their capacity and their visions and their brains. So it's also about respecting people's choice of lifestyle, because it's hard to change a country to some other countries just because of recruiting and trying to get people to move, to see your own values in Finland, for example, in Wasa, and trying to also recruit in another way, maybe. I don't know. Something I was thinking about was also the applying system, actually. That's something I've been thinking quite a lot about, like the admission system to universities. Some of you were talking about, like, if you have been chosen to come to a country, you have been making quite a big, like, effort and decision to go to another country. And I think this is something between just Finland and Sweden. Like, today it's quite different how you apply and to education. In Finland, it's more or less all about in Sweden, it's more or less just all about the grades. In Finland, quite long, you have had these tests and interviews, and you have had to really read these books to understand which kind of education you go into and do these tests. And I think this is like another chance for many Swedes that understand that in Finland you can do this as well. And from the opposite, like if you don't pass these tests or interviews, you can apply for the same education in Sweden. And these kind of switches between countries are also important gates for people that want to change countries and to see these opportunities. Like the doors are not closed just because of your grades. It's about the motivation as well.
Hey, we have the Minister of Education here. Welcome. Do you want to... Yeah, come on. That was a surprise.
Yeah, thanks for the discussion, and hey, Anna Malin. I missed the start of it. I heard something from the end, and a few thoughts came up. I mean, here we have a symmetry. Anna, you came to Finland, and Malin, you went to Sweden. But in real life, it's very asymmetric in many ways. We Finns, we go to Sweden, and with the exception of Hanken, maybe very few Swedes come to Finland. And when you talked about the mindset, wanting to go abroad, we really would need a little bit of the Swedish mindset. So we really would need to get a symmetry in this student exchange. How could we create this pan-Nordic mindset where it would be as natural for a Swede to study in Finland and Norway as in Sweden, for a Finn to study in Norway and Sweden as in Finland? Of course, it is a language question, but there's also a mindset thing, maybe. Any thoughts on that? Should we standardize our tests? You talked about the entry exam. Should we have a Nordic entry system for all universities, and then you just check the different universities or countries? Do we have discrepancies as to professional requirements? If we standardize those, would that make the Nordic working market real, apart from the student market, maybe also becoming a real thing after that? I'd like to hear thoughts on those things.
And thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Malin.
Sorry, I got so inspired now.
Yeah, I think we all got surprised. That's a good way of surprising the moderator.
And I would just say, yes, I think that's a great idea. And Kjell, he was opening up this conference today by saying, like, we are on a very special part in history right now. And we know that collaboration and co-creation is so important. And I would say, like, yes to the suggestion to open up the admission system, or just to see that, for example, you want to study economics. Okay, you just you see all the educational programs in all the Nordic if you click that box, and then you can start to research, like, which of them would be the best fit for you. And also, if you could combine the admission system, you could also, of course, if you don't come into Hanken in Helsingfors, maybe you come into Stockholm or Linköping, or you can get a second chance by changing the country, like systematically, like directly. You don't have to do different processes. I think that would be wonderful. And then we can get quite like easy exchange of student, and we will see a very positive way when it comes to labor market collaboration. Yes, go for that.
I agree, we say yes. But also to other points, like, you know, when during education you have this, what is like, periods of practice when you're like 14, 15-year-olds. If we would be easy to come to Finland, most people know someone in Finland, or we know someone in Sweden, go a week and stay with the family and work. Even summer internship, like make it much more natural to choose and also in practice actually go to another Nordic country. I think in a way when I moved to Finland, I was like, of course I knew there was Swedish and Finnish as the official languages, but I was surprised how it was much more in a kind of negative way and more a kind of collision between the two languages rather than seeing it as an asset. To me, the Swedish-speaking language has always been like the biggest asset of Finland, because that is the connection to the Nordic, and we need to be able to, you know, connect with the Nordics and sell products to other countries. Basically, it's always been a business driver for me, and I never really understood the conflict between the languages. It's a huge strength, and I'm so proud to have been given my children 2 languages from the beginning, and they happily switch in between. And they're really embarrassed I don't speak Finnish. But so, yeah, I would say yes, both also to study between the countries, but also to work, even in shorter time periods, to just take away the threshold and discover the close countries.
I think that's a very good reminder for us who lives in Finland, that we should see this as an opportunity, because sometimes in the discussions could be quite negative too, so it's a good reminder. We are running out of time. We have 2 minutes left. But as a last question or a comment maybe, I have a lot of young students who come to me for coaching when it comes to career advice and to look at the Nordic countries, Ostrobothnia and so on, Finland. And they are always very worried about their own CV, that I don't have this, I don't have that. And someone who talked about the boxes too. So when you listen to student organizations today, to their reflections and questions, what kind of advice would you give them? We talked a lot about dare to do something, stay curious and so on, but when they sit there with their CV and they're quite worried, I see this a lot, actually. What kind of advice would you give?
I would add to the CV proactivity. You put your top 10 companies, like where do you want to go? You send your CV and then you call. And if they don't answer, you go and knock on the door. Like be really proactive. Then it's hard to say no in the end.
Thank you, Anna. And Malin?
So I would say also, okay, of course it's always good to do the CV, because then you start also to reflect about what are your competences. And you maybe know also where are you going. As Anna said, you didn't have a plan. I don't have any plan. I have never had any plan, but I have been staying curious also to try different things. And if I show my CV, you saw some of it here, it's not very clear. But I think what you can see is like a curious person maybe, that dare to test new things, that like to collaborate, and to lift out the competences and not just get stuck with the CV, also just ask for a lunch. I would say this is something in Sweden I appreciate a lot. It feels a little bit like easier to do this untraditional ways. It's not just always about education. It's not always about the CV. It's about what do you do? What would you like to do? What is the change you would like to do? And ask for lunches, because people always want to talk about themselves. Ask for their perspectives, their own journey, and they will love to have this lunch with you. And then you have made a new connection. So maybe these kind of small interviews with these business people or the organization where you would like to work. So that would be also to do untraditional ways to reach the people you would like. Because mail in a mailbox with a CV, it can work, but it's also one of many mails quite often. So do it in a new way.
And I like the way you talk about stay curious. My own dad has been dead for 17 years. And he was an electrician, and he talked to everybody all the time, everywhere. And it was always quite embarrassing. But I remember that he said to me when I went to study, and when I moved from Wasa 22 years ago, he said that I don't know a lot about your studies, Anna, but one advice: stay curious, talk to everybody everywhere, and he did too. So we could have talked about this forever. We should continue this discussion in some other time too, with the students' organizations at the same place too. Thank you, Anna, and thank you, Malin. Thank you all the panel participants. Thank you, students' organization, that you came today and participated in the discussion. Thank you, Finsk-Svenska Handelskammaren and Kvarkenrådet for the discussion and the opportunity, and to all the big audience we had today. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Jättefint. Det var min kroppsbok. Tack.